No, it's terrible.
This is
I
International
didn't speak.
Junket Interview, take 3.
It's not terrible.
Okay, great.
My God, did that withered purple skeleton just speak?
You'll see, it's quite different here.
We just saw some footage and it looks amazing. And one thing that really stood out for me was Jonathan and Mrs. Zimmerman's relationship, because they really are supportive of each other, but they also pick on each other. So how was this experience of working to create this relationship between the characters?
Yeah, they're kind of best friends and worst enemies, you know, like George and Martha and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. But they understand each other's soft spots and weak points, and so I feel like my character Florence is kind of Jonathan's harshest critic and biggest cheerleader.
I think it's very much like a brother and sister relationship where there's an endless battle for supremacy, but there's also love behind the war.
Yeah.
So Kyle, when you read the script for this film, did you have a sort of eureka moment where you said, I want to participate in this film?
I loved the script, but it was really the conversation that I had with Eli Roth, the director. And I could hear in his voice the passion that he had to tell this story. And I recognized that this was something that was a little different for him. To this point, he'd done, you know, pretty gory, bloody movies.
Yes.
And this was a departure. And I could tell that he was really excited about the idea of working these characters in this story into this sort of supernatural, you know, more of a scary type story as opposed to a gory story. And I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. And Eli and I have a history through David Lynch, funny enough, way back when. So that really started me thinking, oh, this could be fun. And then, of course, working with Cate Blanchet and Jack Black, two actors who I really admire. So it just made sense.
The house is a character in itself. How was the experience of working on set and interacting with all those elements?
It was amazing. I mean, because we were night shooting every time we were outside the house, of course. And this beautiful white house had been painted black by John Huttman. And being on, you know, at the night, it was terrible, it was scary. It was genuinely scary. It was really creepy. And then the interiors were, I mean, every time we went to a new room, I was like super excited. Like you could interact with everything, and the staircase and all these taxidermed animals. I mean, the level of detail was really, really, you know, often as an actor, you need to act to a tennis ball or do a lot of green screen stuff, which is what I was expecting. But there was no suspension of disbelief needed because it was all there. It was really great.
It's so important. I mean, you get that. The movie is called The House with a clock in its walls. It's not called The Witch and the Warlock and the Kid. It's
With the clock in its...
Yeah. So your house better be pretty amazing. And indeed it was, thanks to the great John Huttman.
Okay. Well, talking about horror, of course, Eli, he's a master in horror films, but this is a very different type of horror film. What was your initial reaction when you knew Eli was directing this film?
Well, I was really thrilled to be working with a master of horror because I'd never really dipped my toe into that world before.
Had you not?
Well, I was in King Kong, which is a...
Oh, you mean as an actor?
It's a monster movie, but I've never been in like a real horror film. So this was like a, well, never mind. I just thought of one, but I don't.
You don't want to talk about it?
I want to talk about that one.
Yeah, you buried that one.
But
your publicist just buried that one.
Yeah, so I was excited to jump into that world with him, and when I met with him the first time, we talked about our favorite filmmakers and films, and like what are the best horror films, and like because you want to have a good relationship with taste. It's all about, you know, being simpatico with the director. It's the most important relationship in the movie.
In the film, we get to see everything through Lewis's eyes, through a child's eye. And we get to see his fears, his hopes, and how he reacts to all these things. Do you recall when you were a kid something that you were really afraid of?
Oh, God. I mean, I think I was afraid of a lot. But I threw myself at those fears. Like so I would watch horror films that were way outside what was appropriate. I think to sort of, and I love Grimm's fairy tales. And I read this book when I was young because I didn't like, I liked books that were scary. So I could sort of survive the scariness, I think. But death, I think, which I'm still frightened of. Are you? Are you welcoming?
Am I afraid of the great beyond? No, I've made peace with it. I'm ready to go at any time.
Anytime. Good to know.
Of course I'm scared of death. But you know what I was scared of when I was a kid was that movie Alien. And I didn't think I would be, because I was 10 years old. I thought I was ready. I told my father, I want to see Alien. I saw the commercial on TV. I'm ready. I'm 10 years old. I'm like an adult. And he took me, and I was not ready.
No.
And I could
When
not sleep.
that
I
thing
imagine.
comes out of John Hurt's chest.
No.
But,
It took
you
me
know.
2 weeks to recover.
I was scared of a lot of things when I was a kid, actually. I had a German teacher that was frightening. But more than anything, when I was really little, you know, I was a little afraid of the dark, and certainly things that were either under my bed, or I also had a closet on the side of my room. And I insisted when I would go to sleep that the door, my brothers and I had 2 rooms, and they were separated by a door. The door always had to be open. So I made sure that happened, because I was definitely worried about something sort of coming out from under the bed. I figured if the door was open, it would go into his room and get him, and then I would be safe. So that was it.
Shall we?
God, I hate pumpkins.